Hi, Ron Oglesby here, Chief Solution Architect at Unidesk, and today I want to talk about Unidesk 4 and how we integrate with VMware Horizon View. Now, some of you may have seen how Unidesk dealt with Horizon View and virtual machines and our layers before, but it's all new in Unidesk 4.0, and it gives you a completely different way to deploy layers to VMware View and to other platforms. The key with Unidesk 4 is that we now allow you two different ways to deploy layers. The first is with our layered images that allow us to create images and manage image content across any platform, any hypervisor. The second is our elastic layering, which allows you to deliver layers on demand in both VDI and session host or XenApp environments. Let's take a little bit of a look at the technology of both of these options and then show you a quick demo. The first thing to know about Unidesk 4 is that it's been rebuilt from the ground up for extremely large organizations and to be able to snap on to any provisioning system and any existing environment. All you'll need in your environment is a single virtual appliance, our Enterprise Layer Manager, that will manage your operating systems, your agents, and your applications. The IT staff can then pick and choose those layers, the Windows operating systems, the appropriate agents and applications that Unidesk turns into what we call a layered image. This is an actual Windows image, a single virtual disk containing all those layers that can then be pushed to Citrix or VMware or a cloud environment and actually acts as the base image for whatever deployment methodology you're using. In our example here, of course, we're talking about Horizon View, but it could be Citrix PVS, Citrix MCS, Azure, it doesn't matter. The second deployment option available to you is what we call our elastic layers. Now these are dynamically added applications at login. Essentially, a layering service runs within the guest, and at login, based on their credentials, additional apps are added. Combining these two models of layering deployment allows you to layer every application in your environment, not having to skip things like antivirus or agents or Imprivata single sign-on. Everything is managed a single way and delivered to your users. So let's dig into these two deployment models a little bit and see how each of them works. So you set up Unidesk, you grab a couple of your operating systems, Server 2012, Windows 10, you package up some applications, and then IT creates an image template. Now this is different than the typical image template, which is a monolithic disk that every time you want to update, you have to crack it open, update it, you've taken a snapshot, whatever the process is for the mechanism you're using. In this case, the admin is simply picking and choosing the apps and OS layers they want. That goes into a bill of materials. That image template can then be published, which actually creates the image or updates the image that's already out there. This image is a standard native VMDK, VHD, depending on which underlying hypervisor you're using, and has native performance and no layering overhead, even though it contains layers. From that point, Unidesk has a concept called a platform connector. This is a small piece of software that allows us to communicate with different types of underlying platforms. This platform connector will then take that image and move it into the targeted deployment system. So what does that really mean for you? Well, today we're used to seeing tons of gold images, and some of the layering technologies out there will attempt to reduce some of that gold image sprawl. But this completely eliminates the gold image sprawl problem, as these templates, which are just bills of material for a list of layers and an operating system layer, can have overlap in applications, overlap in operating systems, but when IT patches Windows or a single application one time, it is then updated in all of these templates. There's no need to open multiple gold images and patch them all individually. Once the templates are updated, they can then be published out as new images or updated images to existing pools or delivery groups. Again, patch once, distribute to many. But the benefit of creating these layered images goes beyond that. Maybe today you've got operating systems and applications that you're managing on vSphere. Maybe it's straight Horizon View and vSphere. Maybe it's even XenApp servers that you're managing with Unidesk on vSphere. But tomorrow you might want to try another hypervisor, whether it's Nutanix AHV, Microsoft Hyper-V, Zen Server, whatever it is. With any other tool, you are rebuilding your OS templates and rebuilding your application packages to fit that new model. In a Unidesk world, you don't have to do that. You can take the existing Windows and application packages and simply publish them to a new platform. This is not just simply migration from A to B, but you can actually manage concurrently 2 different, 3 different, 4 different hypervisor platforms, all using the same operating system and application layers. And when the CIO or the VP of infrastructure comes down and says, we're going to try some cloud work, you need to figure out how to get some of these apps into Azure, get it into Amazon. Again, no rebuilding, no making new templates, no having to patch in 2 different places. You simply select the templates in Unidesk and publish them to the new target, in this case Azure. Now that's layered images. Let's look at the second deployment method, elastic layering. Now we'll start with VDI because that's the simplest concept to begin to understand hot add delivery at login. But you have a Windows base image, running Windows environment, and of course you still have that same layer storage and that same single virtual appliance from Unidesk. When you publish or assign an elastic layer, the applications that you've made available are pushed to a UNC path. We call this a layer repository. This is a standard Microsoft Windows share type UNC path. You can put it on something like a scale out file server, a traditional storage system, a clustered file server, whatever your organization typically uses for high availability file stores. Then, as your users log into their VDI instance, the layering service will enumerate their login, who they are, the groups they're a member of, and attach the appropriate applications to their desktop and present it into the end user session. Pretty standard fare, really. But the really cool thing is what happens in XenApp or RDSH environments. That same layering service is running there. And when I log in to, let's say, session 1, I may be presented with one set of apps. But when user 2 logs in to session 2, there may be some application overlap, but they may have a completely different set of apps delivered to them as layers. So you have all the benefits of layering, native app performance, apps that look, act, and behave as if they're installed in the image, but only presented to the sessions and the users that have rights to them. And finally, let's look at how this looks in the enterprise. Today you may have a data center running XenApp or XenDesktop or VMware Horizon, whatever you're running. And you're publishing out elastic layers to a local file share. Well, this is a read-only file share. So in Data Center 1, they're accessing, everybody's happy, and the agent within the VMs itself doesn't even talk to our infrastructure. It only looks to that share, reads a couple of rule files, there's rule base there, and then attaches these applications. These are read-only VHDs, meaning if you want to set up a second data center, whether it's for added capacity or for DR, that share is read-only. You simply replicate it directly over there. No replication of the layer manager or databases or any other existing VMs need to happen. Simply replicate a simple share. And going back to that whole concept of the cloud, if you want to run this in something like Azure or Amazon, well, remember, it's just a share containing read-only VHDs, and the agent just looks at a UNC path. So you can replicate it there also. This allows you to manage in one location all your apps, your operating systems, your agents, manage multiple platforms, and create an expandable, simple to manage multi-data center environment. So let's take a look at a demo. So in my demo environment, I want to start with the Unidesk Layers tab. This is where IT will manage applications, operating systems, and our new type of layer, platform layers. Just like all previous versions of Unidesk, you'll have no limitation on the type of applications that you can layer, whether it's something nasty and deep in the operating system like antivirus, a complex big ol' app like Epic, or something really simple like OpenOffice or WinRAR. Even those apps that other vendors cannot do, Unidesk can put into a layer and allow you to deliver them out to the images themselves. So regardless of the number of images or configurations that you have today, you're still going to only manage one copy of any operating system, just like you always have with Unidesk. But the magic in being able to support any hypervisor or any cloud platform is what we call our platform layers. Here you can see I have platform layers for things like Horizon on vSphere, Citrix PVS on vSphere, RDS on Azure, and even Windows 7 on vSphere. This is what allows your IT shop to have one copy of any given OS and one copy of any given app and push them to specific platforms, but all managed here. But focusing on vSphere and View for a second, let's talk about images. Again, back to that model of the concept of being able to deploy layers in two ways. These are image templates, a bill of materials that describes the content of an image that's pushed to a VMware View pool. If I was to look at the student's image template, I can see they have the Horizon View Agent, some WinRAR, Firefox, and of course Windows 10. But these application layers and other layers are interchangeable with other templates, meaning no matter how many different configurations of Windows 10 desktops I have, I would only have one copy of Windows 10 to patch, or Office, or antivirus. And all of this integrates with VMware View, and on the back end, in the catalogs, we can actually take a look at the desktops for that student configuration. If we edit it, what happens underneath is fairly simple. Unidesk actually creates the image that gets pushed out into the storage, registered with View, and turned into a template for View Composer deployment. So gone are the days of having 10 or 20 or 30 different pools with 10 or 20 or 30 different images to update, and instead you update Unidesk layers once, and we actually update the images. If we were to look at these parent VMs, you can actually see the student VM and its disk name and VM name are composed of a date and a time and the students being the image template name. If I was to update that today, the disk would be updated, revved, a new snapshot applied, and the composer pool and all of its associated VMs would also be updated. Of course, you still have the option, beyond just pushing layers into images, to deploy actual individual layers to users or groups of users. So let's take Epic as an example. I can select Epic and assign that layer to a single group or multiple groups of users. I can even do it version dependent. Of course, I only have Hyperspace 2015. So in Elastic Assignment, it shows my domain that I've configured. And if I simply search on my name, I can select my user and assign that layer to my user. The interesting thing about our layer assignment and our elastic layering, beyond just being added at login, is that Unidesk requires no additional infrastructure in your environment to use these layers. Our virtual appliance is not in the login path, and this means that as a user logs on, the only connection being made is from the guest layering service to a simple share that contains the rule base for adding layers. So no redundant databases, no replicating of virtual appliances or management consoles. All you have to do is be able to replicate a simple read-only share between data centers or between your data center and the cloud. So Unidesk 4 has all the simplicity in application provisioning and packaging that we've always had, but we now have the ability to manage across platforms, across hypervisors, between different brokers, and integrate into your existing View environment with no applications left behind. Unidesk 4, the way layering should be.